Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Markham, and today we're talking about the first cell phone. How do you make sure your child is safe and educated? Well, the first rule is don't get a smartphone, too early. Put it off as long as you possibly can because children are just not equipped yet. Their brains are not developed enough that they will know how to handle a phone responsibly when they're 9 or 10 years old. So they're more likely to click on a phishing scam. They're more likely to respond immediately to a text from another kid that makes them angry. They're more likely to be taken in by somebody who says that they're another child, but there's something a little odd about it. They're more likely to lose the phone, which is a pretty expensive purchase. So all of the research is pretty clear that children should not be on social media before they're 13. It would be better if they could wait till later. And they should not have a cell phone before they're 13. And again, it would be better if they could wait until later. So there are other devices besides smartphones, like watches, for instance. They can call you, but they're not actually on social media with that device. So put off the purchase as long as you can. So I'm hoping that your child is 13 at least before you're getting them a phone. The second thing that you should know is that you don't start educating your child about digital safety when they get the first phone. You start as soon as possible because, of course, they're using your phone. Maybe they're on a play date using another kid's phone, or they're at school using another kid's phone. So you want to talk to kids about the things I just mentioned, about phishing scams, about responding to people that you don't know online. In other words, not responding, about not forwarding things without permission, about not responding immediately if they're upset about something. Kids need to have an understanding of the things that can go wrong digitally, or they won't know how to handle them well. So as you hand your child your phone and they're using your phone for whatever, to call a friend, to text a friend, whatever, you're educating them all the time about how to be a good cyber citizen. And this goes on really from the time they're little, that anytime they're ever engaging with phones. So their education starts before they ever get that first phone. Then you need to get some clarity about what the rules are going to be around that phone. So one thing you can do is download the cell phone agreement. It's a Word doc. You can change it, but the cell phone agreement that's on the AHA Parenting website. Just put in cell phone agreement and you'll find the page where it is and you can download it. ahaparenting.com, cell phone agreement. So what you want to do is take a look at that agreement and it'll start you thinking about things you've probably not thought of before. Like, is there some space in your home that is cell phone free? Is there some time in the week that is cell phone free? For instance, the dinner table might be cell phone free, or you don't want your child sleeping with their phone under their pillow or texting at 1 a.m. So they should be putting the phone in the charging station at the front door before bedtime. So those kinds of agreements are all listed in the cell phone agreement. It's a Word doc, as I said, so you can change anything to be what you need for your family, but it'll give you an idea of the kinds of things you need to think about in advance before you agree to a cell phone. And then before you ever go shopping for that cell phone, pull out the agreement that you've decided on and sit down with your child and say, so here are my ideas about how you can stay safe. And I'd like us to read this, discuss each thing. I'd like to hear your ideas about it. And we're going to need to come up with an agreement that we both feel is a good way for you to be responsible with the cell phone. And we're going to both sign it. That's our agreement before we ever go to the store to buy a phone. So then you sit down with your child and they say, this is ridiculous. I need a phone. Whenever they need it, while I'm doing my homework, to talk to my friends about the homework assignment. And maybe you had thought that no phones during homework. So you're going to have to listen to them. You're going to have to say, I see what you're saying. Maybe there could be some use during homework, but I don't want you just on social media during homework. How are we going to solve this? And you work out step by step what your agreement is. And then you both sign the agreement. Now, this isn't a permanent agreement. It's not written in stone. It's what you're going to start with. And then over time, obviously, as your child matures and shows how responsible they are, then you can loosen things up, but you want to start in a relatively restricted way, and you want to supervise the phone use. So you're not just handing your child a phone and saying goodbye, good luck. You're saying, okay, there are going to be some parental controls on your phone. And I suggest that you, again, go to the AHA Parenting website and look for parental controls. And there will be some good recommendations on who to look, because they're always changing, websites that you can go to for good parental controls. Then, once you get the phone, you have to have a daily meeting with your child. After a while, it'll be a weekly meeting. After a while, it'll be a monthly meeting. But in the beginning, you're going to have a daily meeting with your child. You're going to look at the phone, look at the history of what happened that day. Oh, it looks like so-and-so texted you. Oh, okay. So let's look at that text. And I see what you wrote back to them. How did that feel to you when they asked you that question, or when they forwarded that photo from the sleepover that you weren't invited to, or whatever it is that was the interaction? Because a lot of what you're doing now is about their interactions with their peers. And it's sort of like when they first went to the playground as toddlers or a preschooler, and they had to learn to wait in line for the slide and not push the other kids, and how to deal with it if they got pushed or fell down and cried or whatever happened to them at the playground. You were there as their backup. And if they needed you, if they screamed for you, when somebody took their shovel and their bucket in the sandbox, you went and you gave them the words, you coached them to interact with their peer. But you weren't in the sandbox with them, at least after the beginning years. So that's the way it is with the phone. You need to be coaching them about how they're handling every interaction on the phone. And what that means is that you don't lecture them. You don't say, oh, how could you have said that? Or you forwarded that picture from, of you in your bathing suit, that could get all over the school, or whatever. You're saying, how did that feel to you? Why did you make the decision to forward that? How did it feel when so-and-so asked you, the boy she has a crush on, asked her for a photo of her in her bathing suit, let's say? You're trying to help your child develop some good judgment. And sometimes that comes from bad experience. Kids will make mistakes with their cell phones, but that's why you're involved. It's sort of like potty training. In the beginning, you're very involved. In the end, you're not involved at all. The phone is exactly like that. When they're 13 and you give them the phone, you're going to be going over with them every single night. You're reviewing with them, what apps they use, what decisions they made, what other people sent to them. Did your child, how did they feel? Did they feel jealous or left out as they looked at the social media of, other kids' lives online? This is an opportunity to listen to your child and get to know them, and also to help your child understand that social media is designed to make them jealous. It's not a completely accurate picture. In fact, it's not accurate at all of someone else's life. And social media is a risk factor, especially for vulnerable kids who are prone to anxiety or depression. Social media is a risk factor for kids to feel bad about themselves. So it's especially important that if you're letting your child on social media, that you're reviewing what happened on social media. So it's not just the phone, it's also how they interact with what they can do on the phone. Did it change anything in his life to have those interactions on the phone? Were there any challenges as she considered how to respond to whatever that thing was? You'll see things like somebody will send a mean text to somebody else, and you can ask your child about those social dynamics. You can listen to them talk about what they're facing at school, and you can coach your child. I wonder what you could do about that. Yeah, you could do that. And I wonder what would happen then, because your child might be saying, I'll never speak to them again. And you say, you could do that. And I wonder what would happen then. And then they're like, well, I guess that wouldn't really be a good idea. So you're doing social skills at the same time that you're teaching them something about the world, the way the world works, the way social media works. The fact that social media is a moneymaker for the companies that do it. It's not a public service. It's not a service to your child. It's not in your child's best interests. So if they're going to use social media to be in touch with other people, they have to understand that what goes with the territory is addictive behavior. And they have to notice that and talk with you about their feelings. And then you need to be a good role model and you need to be handling your phone in a responsible way. You're not always scrolling on your phone. And when you find yourself scrolling on your phone, you say, oops, that was addictive behavior. I'm not going to do that. And you put your phone down. And you also follow the rules about, certain times to be on your phone, certain days or times of the day that are phone free. And you model how we notice our behavior in a conscious way. And we're able to manage our behavior. And if your child is not able to manage their behavior with the phone, then you're going to need to put the guardrails in to keep your child safe. Notice if they're always behind a closed door on their phone, that's a problem. They need to be able to be in a public space. But also, you're on the phone every single day with them in the beginning. And when I say in the beginning, it could easily be 3 months where you're looking at everything that transpired. And as you do that, you're gaining confidence in your child's ability to handle whatever the phone brings into their life. So you're listening a lot, you're talking a lot, you're randomly checking your child's phone even after that 3 months, and you're making sure that things are, after the 3 months, maybe it's once a week, you look at it, maybe it's once a month after that, but you're staying involved in your child's phone usage for a long time until you're confident. And you're also having conversations where you're not holding their phone, but you're at the dinner table and you have a conversation about sexting. What is sexting? Why do people do it? Most kids, by the time they're 15, have received a sext and they've sent a sext. And if that's horrifying to you before your child has a phone, it should be. And so that's why you want to have conversations before your child ever gets a phone about what it means to send a naked picture to another person, and the idea of a digital footprint, that anything that goes out digitally stays online forever. Another thing that's really important for your child to understand is pornography. Before you get your child a phone, you have to have had conversations about pornography. I'm not going to talk about pornography in this video, but again, on the AHA Parenting website, there's an article, there's a video on how to educate your child about porn. And it's really important that you do it because all children will eventually see porn. The average age is much younger than 13. And it will probably happen before they have a phone, but once they have a phone, you can just assume they're going to see porn. So you want to do education about porn prior. It would be totally irresponsible to get your child a phone and not have had a conversation about pornography. Another thing that's really helpful is role play. So I mentioned at the dinner table that you might have a conversation with your child about sexting, and you can launch into a role play. You can say, I'm going to be your friend, Samantha. And then you ask, your child for a naked picture, or those pictures from the sleepover. Didn't they take a naked picture of Susanna and, she didn't know it or whatever? So you have to talk about consent. You have to talk about the boundary of people's privacy online and what we forward into the world. And those kinds of conversations, often children don't know how to say no socially. And so it's really important to have those kinds of role plays so your child actually learns to do that. We're talking about managing their social lives. And when they get a phone, it's a whole new dimension of their social lives, and it becomes much more complicated for them. So hopefully that's helpful to you to get started, but you'll have lots of conversations over time with your child about being a good digital citizen. And there are other articles on the AHA Parenting website about keeping your child safe online, but start with the cell phone agreement and then sit down with your child. And the only thing is to remember to listen more than you talk. I'm Dr. Laura Markham. Thank you for listening and being with me today. Enjoy your child.